Hello everyone, Mystery here, and today we are talking about Desperado, the ranged archetype ability for the Hive Scum. Probably one that a ton of people are very interested in playing with. This is such a cool and unique ability because it is the real only ability in this class that allows a ranged character to go infinite and just shoot all day without consideration for, hey, am I going to run out of ammo or am I in danger? You just go hard and then just murder a ton of stuff. And it feels super liberating to walk or to sprint at a big line of gunners and then activate this and just go full Rambo on them because they cannot hurt you during it. So I bet you guys are going to have a ton of fun with this, but I wanted to make a video explaining exactly how it works because there's some intricacies here and there that might not be fully expounded upon. And I want you to understand what talents and things when you're building are going to have the best synergies here to get the absolute most out of Desperado. And then I'll also give you my thoughts on how this ability fares versus the rest of the abilities on the class, especially after these recent changes to it, which did quite change it a lot. So let's begin here. Oh, and reminder, if you aren't yet subscribed and you want to see more Darktide content, you like the sound of my voice, whatever it is, I'd greatly appreciate your subscription, liking, and give me a comment down below and tell me what about this class or really anything Darktide I should cover next. I'm always looking for new ideas. Thank you so much, guys. All right, let's begin. Enhanced Desperado swaps to and reloads your ranged weapon, entering Enhanced Desperado for 10 seconds. For the duration, you become impossible to hit by ranged attacks, and sprinting costs no stamina, as well as gaining 20% sprint speed. So this is really important, that second line right there. You become impossible to hit by ranged attacks. So this is a double-edged sword, guys. On the positive edge, while this is active, enemies are trying to target you with ranged attacks, but they cannot hit you. Therefore, you count as dodging. So for quick and deadly, and up here we've got float like a butterfly, and perhaps even certain weapons like your shivs, or there are ranged weapons that also have this blessing, riposte down there at the bottom of the blessing for the shivs, that is going to be active nearly constantly. As long as enemies are shooting at you, they're going to be missing you, and that means you're just getting a ton of crit chance for free, or whatever other dodge-based blessings or benefits you might get. So we like that part. The part we don't like so much is that because enemies are actively shooting at us while we're in this mode, as soon as you come out of this mode, you are going to get your ass blasted if you don't take evasive maneuvers, which is why I'm very glad they've actually added a timer to this ability so that it will show you how much time you have left. Now, this ability is maybe one of the abilities in the game that has made me want more than ever for Darktide to introduce a new UI layout, which puts this ability icon somewhere near the center of the screen. Because playing with this ability way down there in the corner, when it is a matter of literal life and death, how many seconds you have left on this ability is very detrimental to actually aiming and shooting, because you have to look all the way down there and then back up at what you're actually aiming at in order to see how much time you have left. But that's neither here nor there. Let's continue. When this ability is active, oh, by the way, you gain sprinting speed. I think I mentioned that already. It makes you very, very fast, and sprinting is free. But while this ability is active, reloading your weapon does not reduce your ammo reserve. And additionally, it reloads your gun for you. So the optimal way to play this ability is to just start by shooting, shoot your entire mag out, and then press the ability, and you'll get a free reload, and you'll be able to shoot 2 mags without any interruption, which is amazing. Very, very fun. So that is the way you should always open up your first barrage with Enhanced Desperado, is with a full mag and then an active ability. And while you're in that active ability, though, you saw that blue outline around all those enemies. That are your highlighted, those are your highlighted targets. Those are your ones you're going to want to kill. They are within what the game considers close range, or 12.5 meters in non-Darktide terms. Those enemies will extend the duration of this ability by 1 second to the cap of 10 seconds. So you can actually see it in my timer if you watch it in a second, but the timer on the ability will actually be filling up repeatedly as I'm killing these enemies. But it can only cap out at 10. So if I killed 20 enemies in the first second the ability was active, well, I would effectively waste all of that. So there is some strategy if you've got a big horde to like letting the timer run down a little bit and then turning around and spraying at the horde and getting like 5 kills really quickly and getting the timer way back up, rather than shooting those enemies dead and wasting potential timer extension. But that's like the skill cap that you could have with this ability. Now, each of those enemies for the first 20 seconds of extension give 1 second worth. So 20 enemy kills, each one will give you 1 second additively, and then after that the extending becomes diminished, and it is diminished a lot. I thought that initially that it was like half as much, but maybe they have nerfed that. It is very small. It is 0.2 seconds. It is very, very, very small in terms of the extension, so you need to be absolutely blasting hordes in order to get any time back at all. And it basically means that effectively past 30 seconds, you're coming out of this thing within a couple seconds, like it or not. There's really not much way you can hang on past that too long. So it becomes important to structure your gameplay around the fact that you're going to come crashing out of this thing in just a second. And as a base cooldown, it has a 45-second cooldown. Now this got changed midway through the developer patch that we were playing on, from 30 to 45, and they reduced the extension duration. I'll give you my thoughts on that in a little bit, but it's much harder to play with than it was then. It was certainly very powerful then. Let's come over here and check out some of the ability modifiers. Pick your targets. 15% rending for your range attacks while Enhanced Desperado is active. Additionally, highlighted enemies give 3% range damage, stacking 5 times. So the rending is very nice here. It allows you, instead of this, to do this, which you might not notice much difference, but it is a difference, right? That's 15% true damage on armored targets, which is not nothing. But perhaps the more important thing there is that 3% range damage up to 15%, and those fall off one at a time, so you'll have that active the entire time. No problem, you're going to max that out. And who doesn't want 15% damage on pretty much all of your range attacks while you're going ham with your range gun? This next ability modifier is called Focused Resolve. Killing highlighted enemies restores 0.5 seconds ability cooldown. Elite and special skills instead restore 1 second with a 5-second max cooldown restoration. So this actually isn't all that powerful. I tend to avoid this on many of my builds. What this used to represent was, when it was a 30-second cooldown, it used to represent up to 5 seconds out of 30 seconds, which is okay. But with a 45-second cooldown, this is only about 10% of your cooldown, and it really ultimately isn't all that worth it. If you wanted this, you could save the talent point and instead take those 3 traits on your curios for a little bit more than this effect, 12% instead of like 11% or so. And I'll show you what this does. So actually, I don't know if it works on the specialists. We'll find out in a second, won't we? Let's actually let it run out and see if it works on specialists. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Because at some point it was bugged and it wasn't working on them. Okay, so it is working on them, but I think it's working as if they are regular enemies. So that elite enemies count as a full second, specialists and everything else count as a half second, I suppose. But yeah, this only gives you up to 5 seconds. And I think that cap, personally, if I were balancing this, I think that max cooldown restoration should be 10 seconds. I think it should cut a little more off because this ability has a pretty low uptime these days. As far as the current balance. But it certainly is an ability that is very tricky to balance because it gives you infinite resources and makes you dodge all range attacks, so you can go completely aggressive with it and negate a ton of enemies. Now let's talk about potential synergies here with the tree, stuff that's going to work really, really well while this is going on. And we have first, of course, have to go to the stim lab to talk about how this works alongside it. So when you are in this ability, the number one limiting factor for you is the amount of bullets you can put out per second. You want to be putting out more bullets because the more bullets you can put out and the more free reloads you can get, the more value you're getting, and therefore also the longer you can extend the duration because you should be killing at a super, super fast rate. And the number one way that you are going to lose your ability duration here, the way that you're going to get interrupted in keeping your Desperado going, is by having to reload, because reloads are slow as hell. So when you reload, you are getting resources for free, but you want to jam that thing in real fast and you want to get to shooting again. That's what she said. So we want things like Speed Loader up here, which is going to give you 30% reload speed for 8 seconds on close range kill. You also really probably want to get Reflex here in your Stim Lab tree, because this is going to make your reloads go even 30% faster than this. Additionally, you can play with weapons like the dual auto pistols here, which have an additional up to 50% reload speed, and all told, you can get something that looks like this, which is much, much faster and better in terms of just getting bullets down range than the alternative, right? Like, I'm able to get a ton of reloads, and look how high my timer is because of how much time I'm able to spend shooting and killing. And that will be your main problem with any other setup. So there you go. That is the power of reload speed. Reload speed has an amazing synergy with this class, and I encourage you, even in a situation like this where there might be other talents on a weapon that could give you more damage, reload will ultimately give you way more value out of this ability. So this is a great way to go, in addition to that attack speed, but also for that reload speed and recoil reduction. So great pairing here. Now, as far as other pairings for this ability, and in the Stim Lab section, I don't think that you probably care about anything in this top left tree, because we, again, aren't taking any damage from range attacks while this is going on, and our goal as this class is to position ourselves so that melee enemies can't reach us. We're kiting melee enemies, and we're trying to kill them there. For cooldown reduction, you do have an interesting question here. Cooldown reduction is very good with this because this is a long cooldown ability, right? If you had this ability cooldown reduction going, it can shorten the ability cooldown. However, as you notice, the ability does not cool down during the actual effect of the ability itself. It only cools down after. So you can choose to have this effect while the ability is active, which is going to make the ability give you more effective damage and more effective ammo per second. But this over here won't do anything at all for you while the Desperado is still going. So you'll have to wait until it's done to get some of this effect out of it. And personally, I find that it is not that great, because if you spec all the way down here, this is only 50% ability cooldown regeneration. It's going to take you from 45 seconds to 30, which is okay. But again, you'll want to use the stim during the ability, so you'll lose a portion of that duration. And this only, again, lasts for 20, potentially 25 seconds, depending on what stim you have going, or what length stim you have going. And that is going to really only get you an extra 10 seconds of cooldown in that. So probably not worth it to go in the cooldown tree, even with Hypex or Clay, because think about it, range kills, you probably don't want to be shooting a whole lot when you're outside of this ability because you don't get those bullets for free. This Hypex might be a better pairing because you can melee for free outside of it. But I think probably the best pairing of all is just to go into something strength, or to not choose anything at all. Because if you chose all strength and you go into finesse and stuff, you raise your cooldown to 45 seconds. But if you have minimal, we actually end up with a cooldown that's 44 seconds, which is almost exactly the cooldown of this ability. So you enter into a situation where if you've ever been an MMO player, there are certain efficiencies you can strike where if you have cooldown timing and you can get them to synergize with each other and align at the right times, you can just basically snapshot and do a ton of damage. So having this stim set up like this, where the stim is up when the ability is up pretty much every time, is actually perfect, because now every time we use this ability, we will have the stim to make the ability go as hard as possible. We'll get the maximum amount of benefit out of it, and you won't have to worry about the timing. And then you can program it in your brain like, okay, yeah, I need to stim and then I need to ult. There you go. That's how you would play it from there on out, and you'll get a ton more juice out of this thing than you would otherwise. Let's talk about finally just some talents and stuff that obviously work very well with this, or perhaps don't work very well at all. We do get a lot of value out of chemical dependency out of something like this, because if we're going for a short-term stim that only has the 44-second cooldown, we can get a lot of cooldown out of this ability. So you could go for 30 seconds, or even you could go for maxed out chems here and go into having a 40% ability cooldown reduction, and then you'd get up to 20% crit chance, which means that I think that probably chemical dependency is the best paired alongside enhanced Desperado, just because this has a longer cooldown than you might expect. The Vulture's Mark tree is good, but I don't think that Vulture's Mark really provides anything that you desperately need with enhanced Desperado. Because if you look down here, Vulture's Dodge gives you immunity to all attacks for 1 second. As a reminder, we are already immune to ranged attacks during this ability, and we can already get immunity to melee attacks while sliding. So if we've got ranged attackers shooting us, we don't care, and if something tries to melee us, just slide. You don't need to take this node. Making it extend to 12 seconds isn't adding any power to this ability, and it's only another 15% range damage and crit chance. We are already getting a ton of movement speed, and we already have 20% sprint speed here. So I think this, which can give you instead 15% or 20% crit chance and a bunch of cooldown, is way better on that front. That would be my recommendation for a talent to go alongside Desperado. And other things that work really, really well with this ability on the tree, obviously you've got Unload, which you're going to want to dump tons of mags. You've got Ammo Jack. You've got Pickpocket, which can help you keep ammo even when you are draining the last of your reserves. And of course, up here we've got things like In Your Face. I already talked about Speed Loader, Voice of Tertium, and Calling for a Timeout, all of which can help you reload and keep a lot of more damage off of you. Now, finally, to talk about the weapons that are going to be best, I guess pseudo-finally, to talk about weapons that are best with this ability, anything that can dump its mags very, very quickly and has fast reloads. So really, most things on this class are very, very good alongside this. Brace autogun, dual auto pistols, dual stub pistols, infantry autogun, the quick draw stub revolver with the fan the hammer mode, shredder, auto pistols insane here. All of these are great candidates for use alongside this because they can dump their mag very quickly, they can slam a reload really quickly, and they can get a lot of value out of this. Weapons like the double-barreled shotgun, it seems like it might have a good synergy there, but, you know, reloading just 2 shells for free isn't all that impactful as compared to reloading effectively 1/9 or 1/10 of your entire amount of ammo of your gun for free. Weapons that don't have synergy with it, in addition to like really the shotgun, probably things like needle pistol. Needle pistol, you can just sustain with talents like Pickpocket for free. I'll make a video on Needle Pistol and that talent in the future. But Needle Pistol also has this weird sort of anti-synergy where if you use your Desperado ability and you get the kill within 1 second of having shot them, you'll get the cooldown. Look at the cooldown down there. But you won't get it if it's outside of 1 second. So you see I got the cooldown there and there. But I won't get the cooldown if it takes longer than 1 second after I last shot them. So you need to be careful with Needle Pistol. Also, Needle Pistol just isn't blasting hard enough for it to be really justified with use with this ability. Anyway, I think that's all talking about the balance. My thoughts on this ability currently. I think that this ability is a very hard ability to balance. Because it gives you ranged immunity, it's going to allow you to stunt on enemies. It's going to allow you to do things that you really aren't supposed to be able to do. You aren't supposed to be able to just skirt the rules and advance into gunner fire and just shoot them point blank. It is an extremely fun ability. If I were to do anything to it currently, I would love to make that duration just a little bit longer again. I would love to make it just go a little bit harder. I find that it is hard, especially when you are on higher difficulties and you get confronted with enemies like Crushers and these guys. You'll spend more than 1 second killing them oftentimes, and then therefore effectively you're going to lose duration on your overall ability and you're going to come out of this ability before you've extended it. I would love if elite enemies would get an extension just baseline to give you more cooldown back, and therefore like help you to achieve that 30-second duration more often. Because I think that the 30-second duration is probably a fine duration before that diminishing returns hits. It's just that a lot of times when I activate this ability, I find myself not either having the enemy density around me to sustain that, or the enemies that are around me are too hard to kill to effectively get that 1 second full back. And in terms of its effectiveness versus other abilities in the class, it is going to make your range attacking more effective, but we'll talk on future videos about whether or not I think other other abilities on this class are perhaps just flatly better. But it is just generally a very, very fun ability. I think it is very powerful. And you remember that like this ability you can play this class outside of this ability, right? You don't have to always have this ability going because you can still use your ammo on the side, just like a normal class would, and then activate this when you need to go absolutely ham. But that's my thoughts on it, guys. I would like to see it get a little bit of a buff, maybe some sort of little buff to focus resolve, but otherwise it is super fun. I think you're gonna have a ton of fun playing with it as well, especially if you are a run and gunner like I like being. You are gonna be beside yourself because this thing just goes super, super hard and is really, really fun. All right, guys. Well, I'll see you very soon, and Mystery out of here. Bye-bye.